Okay. Who's going to start?
Okay.
I don't know.
You want to
Are you
open up,
going to?
Dave? Or?
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I didn't know whether you wanted to wait another couple of minutes. For
I think that's
people.
probably a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am surprised because
we had about 30, didn't we? Had 30 odd, about 32 or something acceptances. We'd normally get rather more than this. I don't know.
Was
it accepted on LinkedIn? Maybe there's a different way of getting in. Maybe the link is different.
No, it's linked to the same event.
Right.
It goes straight in. Yeah. So no, that shouldn't actually be any.
Yeah. I do wonder whether, because we had the BIM and asset management meeting last Wednesday, whether a lot of people have seen the crossover. Yeah.
It can do, but normally that means people don't respond to the other invitation. If the invitations go out too quickly together, people see it and just think it's one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at 3 o'clock on a sunny afternoon, and everyone's.
Yeah, you know what? This is true. Late afternoon is not actually a good time. That does it really does make quite a big mistake, a big difference.
You're probably.
Do you want to get on with it then, George?
Yeah, I
think might as well start, George.
Okay. Bear with me 1 second, because I was just going to pick up on what we've been talking with the HSE. I had a meeting with the HSE on Monday, with the people we've been dealing with on the. Bear with me a second. On the standardized health and safety file. So I'll explain to you a little bit about what we've been doing there. One of the challenges that I think everybody struggles with is that all the handover information that's coming through is unique. So depending on which contractor has actually done the work, and which O&M compiler has been commissioned to do the work, you end up with a very different set of information. And the difficulty is, as you know, people like any landlord, how do you check to see if you've got all the information that you required? And the biggest challenge or one of the biggest challenges for the FMs is that the information is typically compiled by work package, because that's the easiest way for the construction firms to actually procure the information, whereas people that are actually running the buildings are typically working by system, or they're working by groups of assets that need to be performed in a certain way. So one of the things that we've been doing over a year now is trying to come up with a more standardized way of managing this information. You might call it a folder structure, but actually it's more a table of contents, so that if people are collecting information in, for example, SharePoint, and then they want to transfer it into something that's a bit more permanent, the folder structure doesn't become the critical thing. The folder structure is perhaps how you've collected the information, rather than how you want to view it. So that's where we've been doing quite a lot of work, which I can illustrate to you. Within BIM and asset management as well, we've now found that there's several of the big contractors are keen on this, because they're finding the way they normally do it, they just outsource it to a third party who spends their time phoning up supply chain members to chase them for documents. They can't get them because it's not always easy to get those documents. So they then report it back to, somebody like Waits, and then Waits have either got to decide whether it's worth pursuing the subcontractor or not. And I think that they recognise now that it's a lot better if they do the collection of the information and oversee it, because they've got more authority. But I think we're going through an evolution there, really. The other aspect is looking at things from a point of view of what's critical, because there's an overwhelming amount of information, and it's a matter of identifying what is likely to catch you out. And one of the shorthands that we've done to do that is looking at the fire safety information, and in particular regulation 38, to look at that from a point of view of what should be provided at handover, and then using that as the basis to say that's what should be maintained going forward. So I think, certainly Bex and Dave, you've been on that journey with us. Would you, Bex, do you have any comments or contribution to what I've just said there?
Like I say, it's been a bit of a journey, and I've actually changed roles in this journey from the client to a consultant, and I've been dealing with recently Reg 38 files, and trying to get the information from those into a building safety case report and such like. And I think that there is disparity in content from, obviously different contractors and clients. And generally, though, the content is there if you look for it, but I think it would be good to have a standardized way of receiving it, just to make that a little bit more easy and fluid to go into operations as well. So at the moment, as far as I'm aware, most people just, like George was saying, accept a Reg 38 file and then pass it on, and people just go off and do what they want to do. It doesn't feel like there's a proper process in place.
Yep. Dave, anything from you?
Yeah, no, I think echoing what you said, in that basically extracting the relevant data from the documentation is the biggest, manual overhead, I think, of the handover process, because not just for Reg 38, but for virtually every component, be it kitchens, bathrooms, etc., that because of the format of the information when it comes across, there's definitely, a sort of manual search of documentation, in order to then find the relevant data, stick that into something else, in order for that to then populate whatever back-end asset management system you've got. Because at the end of the day, that, when it comes to particularly the golden thread, it is your asset management system that's managing servicing and maintenance. And that is, a crucial component of proving that you're keeping that building safe.
Yeah, what was interesting about that? I was having a meeting last week with a guy who's a real Chris Bicknell. He's a real expert in strategic asset management generally. He used to work at ACOM, and he was telling me something that I'd not actually realised. That is that following one of the big challenges is there's a lot of things that get installed in buildings that have got warranties, right? But the information about what those warranties are is often not collected. And it's also not transferred often from the contractor. So the warranty is generally with the organisation that bought the product rather than the people that are actually going to run it, which is obviously madness. That's not what is supposed to be done. But you'll find that the handover between those two things is contractually very seldom done properly. Now, I've known that for a long time, and it's something that we are trying to encourage. But the biggest one of the things I wasn't aware of is that there's a lot of products where the manufacturer requires a certain inspection of that product once it's been installed after, say, 3 months or 6 months. Well, probably 3 months. Sorry, I've just realised my camera's off. 3 months. And if you don't, that warranty, even if it's a 5 or 10 year warranty, is void. Now, I don't know how many people know that. Yeah. Is that geared into whatever the handover process is? Is that built into, something that should be checked? I don't know. Were you aware of that at all?
That's really interesting, though, as well, because then I've got a question off the back of that. What if it was installed 3 months before handover? And that's that side of things as well. It's actually, is that even a suitable way of operating a warranty?
I entirely agree, and in fact, actually, there's lots of examples where, for example, lighting is put in a year or 2 years before the building's finished, and it's actually used for that period as well. So therefore, the warranty for that product, the life of that product, should start from when it starts being used. And that, I've heard the term beneficial use. So it's at that point that things start to kick in. So I guess what I'm saying is we can't answer those questions, but I think they're questions that the operations group should be able to ask. What do you think on that, Sen?
Yeah, I was smiling straight away. I do see more from an operational element, and that's a common occurrence. We have a servicing and maintenance schedule, give you an idea of when, exactly as you said, quarterly something should be maintained. We'll raise the questions about when it was installed, and it's something has probably been installed 9 months before practical completion and handover. So there's only 3 months left. Now there's a question of the developer when we ask those guys, will you extend the warranty? The usual comeback is this is not in the ERs. It wasn't a requirement off the bat, so we're not going to do it. But then there's an element of when we're handing over to our repairs contractors. I work for a local authority. I don't want to say that how can I say this without they're not here to defend themselves. They're very reactionary to issues. So when they're taking on newer stock, honestly, they're not geared towards thinking about that. They don't think about maintaining the asset from an earlier stage, bringing in board guarantees, working with external partners. They'll work with their internal contractors. And I've seen, unfortunately, within a year, within the defects period, if something hasn't been maintained, the developer will say it's not been serviced, so we're not gonna touch it. Elements being ripped out and replaced, and it's just poor management. It's just poor management, and it's not a one-off. I've seen that often.
It messes up the golden thread, doesn't it?
I was going to say, I don't know whether it's worth me sharing this just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that we have to go through. Bear with me a second. So this is one of our recent developments. Can you all see that at all?
Yeah.
And obviously, we mentioned around the regulation 36, 38, sorry. But you can see we, list the manufacturer, the names, the warranty details, if there are any information about servicing packages, whether we've got the certificates, the service contract expiry dates, etc. And this is just one of the spreadsheets that we have to sort of complete just on any of the components, and this doesn't. There is another spreadsheet which covers off things like the actual make and model of any installed equipment. So you can see that we've got like quite a lot of information on this particular sheet, but once again, this is only like part of the information that we actually have, if you like. So
could you go to the top of that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So sorry. Right. Okay. Let me just have a quick look. See, that's obviously quite similar to the work that we've been doing on Melius House as well, Dave. So that's good. So keep going down.
Yeah.
So if we just look here at the different asset types, I think certainly from what I'm seeing there, a lot of that information could be delivered as part of the COBE.
The difficult we found is trying to get any of the sort of principal contractors and designers to provide us with a fully loaded COBE spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But I thought I'd share that just to show you one example of one of the files, one of the many files that we deal with when it comes to a new development coming across. So
yeah. Is that part of what you're doing, Bex, within RLB?
Looking at bringing, sorry, I was just...
auditing handover information?
No. So I'm more of the post-occupancy, building safety case reporting,
Okay.
That side of things.
And does anybody do that within RWB, do you know? I mean, it's a big organisation, isn't it? I just wondered whether that's a thing that you do.
Well, we do loads of multidisciplinary things, so I'm sure that there are departments that do that. Yeah.
Okay. Connor, are you there yet, by the way? Just out of interest.
Yeah, I'm just listening in the background.
Hi, Connor.
I'm no relation to George, for anybody that's wondering.
That's a relief. So what do you do, Connor?
I'm currently a building surveyor, or stock condition surveyor with Wheatley Homes in Scotland. Previously, and hopefully in the future, I was a BIM manager for a part of the SureServe group. But that got shut down. When I moved to Wheatley, they said they wanted to adopt BIM stuff. I'm now 7 months down the line and I'm still waiting. So I keep my my hat in the ring as it is with the BIM4Housing updates. I don't know if I'm in the right meeting, but I got an invite through, so I just click. Yeah. That'll be fine.
No, it's all right.
Listen.
We've got a number of different working groups, but we can certainly point you at the right ones for what you're doing. This is the operations group. So the principle of this group is to look at the receiving BIM information and
it's quite interesting
do something with it.
I was out surveying. We were doing what they call an SBA. So I was out surveying properties or blocks of flats today to see what level, if any, of the EWS1 forms would be required, and what we might need to do in terms of getting information. And nobody on the site even knew what BIM was. So I was listening to I can't remember who it was, talking about information handover. Does anybody adopt digital twin?
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
So
tumbleweed.
no. I mean, we're involved in digital twins.
Because there's Autodesk have a good platform called Tandem, and instead of going through a SharePoint, which is the bane of any site-based professional, because it's a nightmare to work on tablet and mobile, is having a sort of having somebody in one of the task teams that acts as the sort of data or information mediator, and they get a login for Autodesk's Tandem platform, and then they can just put it straight onto the object, any information in any format, whether it be a PDF, a JPEG, a link to a scan, anything like that. And then instead of having a folder format, you have this 3D, you've got the 3D model, you've got your digital twin being built at the same time. So it's just something that I thought I would put out there as an alternative there. And it's quite good as well, because if you've got the warranties and stuff coming in, then the warranties are actually attached to the object, and everybody knows what a house looks like, or a block of flats, or any kind of building, so they can navigate through the model, and you can filter down to that, and it pops up with all your warranties and stuff. The warranty starting, if you don't start your warranty within 3 months of it being installed, I'm not sure how the manufacturer of the product is going to know when they're installed. Because I've got a shower that was actually installed last year, and I phoned up last week to start the warranty. Maybe shouldn't say that, but there's some bits you can look around it. But I thought, we talked about handover of information. The digital twin, and it's particularly that platform, made it really easy for us in my last role, because you were getting.
So you were using it, were you?
We were using that. It was me that was building the models and integrating the data, and then we had one of the clients who was actually Wheatley, who I'm working for at the moment. One of their team we gave them a login, so they were adding in data. I was adding in data, and there are now bits you can do. You can send everybody's favourite email updates, and warning things using the platform. So if somebody went, right, there's your warranty information, then it would you can set it up to send a sort of notification to whoever it is that's dealing with it. Other than that, you've just got to have that one, almost, I like to call it the clerk of BIM, a digital clerk of works, if you like. Sort of hard-nosed person that goes around going, you said you would have this information by this point, can I have it please? And most of the time, I'm sure the contractors will just go, oh, you hand it over, or at least point you in the right direction so you can go and get it.
Well, that's a really good contribution. And when I wear two hats. I'm BIM4Housing, which is my voluntary stuff, and my company Active Plan. We're a Revit developer, so we're an Autodesk developer. So I was involved with the Tandem development back about 3 years ago, anyway, when it was just coming through. But I'm encouraged to hear that somebody's actually got it working. I've not heard of anybody that has, to be honest. I don't mean that in a disparaging way, because obviously it's in our interest to see it working well. But if I look at, sorry, go on.
So there's a lot I would change, but it was goodness, and I don't know how to word this in a sort of professional manner, but it's quite a simple tool that makes it really easy for some of the people that you would deal with, and at least the people I've met in the Housing Association that would look at the models. It's really easy for them to understand how to use it. So in the sort of previous job, it did exactly what you needed it to do. We were developing something in the sort of background, we combine a few things using Unreal Engine. But when we spoke to, or when I was speaking to the people at Autodesk, they said that that's the kind of level that they were aspiring to get to, and it was growing. The stuff you can do in Unreal Engine is, I mean, you need to have computer geniuses in order to work out how to link things together in Unreal Engine. It's quite a tricky program to learn how to use. And you can link Revit models to Unreal Engine, and you get this sort of ultra realism. You can build Grand Theft Auto maps of real places, which made it quite good and all that kind of stuff. But no, the tandem stuff, I think it's a really good program for housing associations. It's quite basic in what it can do, but it's easy enough if you've got the right people that can show them how to work it, or show us how to work it. I should say. I'm in the housing association now. It's because of, and maybe it's because I've been using Autodesk since I was at uni. But it's quite basic and easy to understand for them. So everybody knows what a PDF is, and if you right click this, if you click on this and then go to this bit, you just need to press this button and drag and drop, and that's it. And they go, oh, that's great. How do I set up a email notification? Oh, don't worry about that. We'll set that up for you. It's just having that clerk of BIM type person there to do it. I kind of went off on a tangent there. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that's very helpful. It'd be really interesting to talk to people that are actually now continuing to use it. To see how well that's. Are you one of those people that are continuing to use it, or?
Well, as I say,
you're no longer working there, are you?
We moved when the old that part of the SureServe group got shut down. So Wheatley took us on with the sort of the idea that we would end up doing what we were doing before, but being a housing association, they needed to get us in some capacity. So we're doing surveying at the moment. We're 7 months in. And I haven't, apart from these meetings, haven't touched a BIM thing. So not at the moment. But if they said tomorrow, right, we want you to start, then I will go back to Autodesk and start using the tandem stuff. That answers your question.
No, it does. Yeah, that's very helpful. Anybody else got any questions of Connor on that?
No, it's quite interesting.
Richard.
Yeah, where I used to work, they had a digital twin, and it cost them millions, and they couldn't keep up with the skill set required to actually operate the digital twin within the organisation, because they got other priorities, like 5,000 live orders to get through and black mold and all that sort of thing. So they were forever getting competing priorities and people moving around. And quite often in lots of places, asset is a high turnover environment. So you have to have this constant training thing. So the solution for me is data containers that you can just search, because people know how to search a computer. It's a very simple thing to do. So if you've got something that they can just search, log onto and search, it's going to be helpful. And the thing that's going to drive it forward in terms of use is there's a couple of things. One, contract clauses. In terms of putting digital information has to be is part of a contract. And the other one is such as HSE, who could very easily insist that a health and safety file is built in the same way as a CDM file, so that it's audited on a pretty regular basis. And without that, attracting people into it is going to be difficult because of damp and mold, because of all sorts of different reasons within construction. Sounds a bit negative, that, but I think it's pretty realistic.
Yeah, I mean, the Tandem was working on it, but the digital twins that we were building in the background using Unreal Engine would always link to your internal database. So if somebody somebody did want to search a computer, then it would be searched. If somebody wanted to walk through the building virtually, then they could also do that. So you did have the two options. We found it was maybe because we were excited about using this new shiny digital twin technology that we went, oh, why don't we try it this way and just update it here? Because if you look at a building and you know what it is that you're looking for, it visually, it feels either like, okay, where's the cooker? The cooker's in the kitchen. All right, I just go to the kitchen. But the searching it works as well. We found those when you get to 5,000 properties and having a folder structure that good. If you type in warranty or you type in, I don't know, eco fire smoke alarm, then you get 5,000 smoke alarms come up. So your folder structure needs to be pretty spot on. But you can quickly go to the. I suppose that no matter, as I'm saying it, I'm thinking about it in my head, going, well, it doesn't actually matter which way you go. You still have to search for something. We've always got.
It's the easy search
in our place, but if you're using,
it's the easy search that's essential, and your UPRN, which every housing association has, is something that fixes the 5,000 returns from a search. You
need to know the UPRN though.
Pardon?
You need to know the UPRN. I'm assuming other housing associations have better UPRN numbers than what we've got. That's the first thing I'm trying.
I've never met one that hasn't yet. That doesn't mean to say they've all got them, but I've not met one yet that hasn't. So it's a fair.
Wheatley does have UPRNs, but they make absolutely no sense.
So, but that's a separate sort of conversation to what it is, because it could be an address with a postcode or whatever. So, but the other thing where I worked previously was they wanted it to feed into their existing asset management database rather than being multiple standalone systems. And that raised some concerns around risk, integrity of the information, and all that side of it. Dynamic linking is easy. Getting the right information through the dynamic link is a different question altogether.
I think one of the biggest challenges is how do you collect the information in a form that can then be easily checked and audited? Because
that's spot on, absolutely.
So I'll just give you an example of how we've been doing it, which we've been doing this now for several years, but I can also show you how we fit this into the work that we're doing with the HSE. So, which I think actually that might be of interest to Bex and Dave. Yeah, I think you've seen some early stages of this, and Sen's certainly not seen it. Just look at the digital twin bit for a minute. This is a very simple. Stop sharing. Sorry. Basically, this is an integration of various different applications. We've got the Autodesk Construction Cloud there, which I think basically is so if for example we're looking for a fire damper, what we've got here, we've got the fire damper modeled, but actually we've got the database or the data behind it's in SQL. So as Richard was just saying there, it's easy to find. So if, for example, you're looking for a fire damper, you can see all the different types of fire dampers because we've got it tied back to manufacturer's product data as well. Not in the model. That's important. It's connected to the model via APIs. And then all of the information, we can then see where that is. You can have a very simple view of it. So you can look at it in 3D, but a lot of FMs prefer it in 2D. and you can also have it connected to a 360 photo. So here we've got a schedule of the fire dampers, and then it's remembering, it takes you to that individual fire damper, the as-built fire damper, actually in the building. Which that means that you're not then reliant on every single element to be modelled, because quite frankly, a lot of M&E elements aren't modelled in any detail because nobody's paying for that. And this is now connecting it back to all the documentation. So it's a combination of various different things. That's the approach that we're taking on quite a few projects at the moment. The important thing is that people need to be able to create the information in a standardized, structured way. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Should be nice and neat as well.
Yeah, it's got to be simple to use, hasn't it? The other aspect of this is being able to collect what actually gets installed. So the handover information, for example, needs to start much earlier in the process, where the operations team become part of the validation process at earlier stages. So here, for example, there's no reason why the FM team shouldn't be involved when products are actually being considered.
And that goes hand in hand with soft landings, doesn't it?
Exactly. For some reason,
in reality, I think we were discussing this last time actually. The reality of it, I mean, everyone loves soft landing. We'd love to do that, but in our busy, hectic organizations, you know, you've got your development team and then you've got your operations team. And I guess that's why we're here, is to work out that sweet spot of coordination, basically. Yeah. But in reality, it's quite a tricky one to get right.
Yeah. Rather than waiting till the end.
Yeah.
So the principle here, Connor, is that the actual product that's being installed can be tested against the information requirements, and then the product that probably actually gets installed, which often gets changed, that gets picked up, so that it can then be compared. So this is a technical submittal process, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And in this case, this is one that we've got people like Bouygues and Waits and people like that are involved in this. So the technical submittal tells you what the product is that should be installed, and also then what product is actually going to be used. And that gets put into a product library, which can then be used to record this is a standardized technical submittal, so that you can then say what product is being proposed, so that it can then pick up when something gets changed, and then that then gets signed off. But you can also do comparisons. So as part of that sign-off process, you can compare products. So in this case, comparing a number of boilers, or comparing doors against a specification.
Yep. So
you've then got a track record of what was being proposed and what has actually been delivered. And then that is, you've got a link through, it's a golden thread link, as it were, through to what gets procured and installed. So that's broadly part of what we're doing. And this is going through the exercise of auditing. This is one of Origin's projects where the two big or four big blocks, we identified some of the key information, like here, for example, this is fire stopping, and you can see that fire stopping drawing isn't really fit for purpose because all the lozenges are overlapping each other. So that's something that should have been checked by the employer's agent, should have been checked by the construction company, because that actually is useless. Whereas, and then the methodology, this is a evolution of the one that, this is an earlier version rather of the one that Dave was showing earlier. So the principle here is that you can then set out what information is required, and where it's green, it means it's provided. But then when it's red, it's missing. And you can then use that to audit the information so that we can actually identify, were data sheets supposed to be provided? Was there a certificate of conformance? So that can then be tied back to the air. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then this is the work that we've been doing with the HSE to be able to take information that may be in folders in SharePoint, bring them into a database, but the database is standardized. So let me just skip off to that for the minute, because this is what we went through with the HSE on Monday. This is a standardized folder structure of looking at what's in the health and safety file, because health and safety files tend to be fairly standardized, not so much the O&Ms. And what we're doing here with this group, we've got a group of people within BIM and asset management that are working on this to actually say what should be in a document, what should be data, how should it be classified, how should it be searched for, and then we can then go through. We've got it's actually a checklist for the various different. For structural consultants, there's some key documents there. For mechanical services consultants, some key documents, and then we've got the various different work packages. But what we're doing here, we're trying to encourage people to think about systems rather than just it's mechanical services or electrical services, to try and get people to think about these from a point of view of networks and circuits and things like that. So the principle of capturing the information is then standardized, and then this is just a table of contents. So what you're then able to do is then look at things from a database perspective, where you can add metadata to items. So you can pull out, for example, as Bex was saying earlier, all the information that needs to go into a fire and emergency file. Now that can come from lots of different folders. To try and put them into folders, using folders as a way that you would use information is not sensible, because you're never going to get enough folders for all the different ways that people want to look at information. And also, once they're in a database, you can then connect them. So you can connect, for example, data in a door schedule with the spaces that those doors relate to.
Yeah.
And then you can then present those in a simple way. Because, in many cases, you want a simple graphic that shows that particular door is protecting that stairwell. And then, as you were saying earlier, connecting the documents into the model so that you can then say those documents relate to these systems. So you've then something from a commissioning folder then gets referenced back to the particular element in the, because really you don't want to go from, maybe you're looking at something, a particular system. You don't want to have to go off to a folder that says commissioning and then look through 200 commissioning certificates, do you? It wants to be, glued together. So that's the sort of methodology. And then by following that sort of method, we've then got the way of then connecting everything up. But that's one solution to it. I guess the question that we need to ask is what's actually needed from an operations point of view, and to an extent, let's try and create the information requirements at the outset, so that's easy to collect. That's what we want to try and get to. I've done a lot of talking there. Sen, was that helpful?
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah, I think it's just your final point about having some uniformity in how the information comes over. I think that's the key issue I have, and the information I share with other colleagues. You're working with different developers, different sizes. We've worked with Bouygues. I wouldn't say they understand it. They maybe have some more interest in the wider business area. Smaller developers struggling to just get the work, but happy to have the council as a client. They're just kind of grabbing anything and everything and giving it to you. Maybe trying to be helpful, but they give you just random things that are really not helpful at all. So some uniformity that would be key, really. And you guys have spoken about SharePoint and probably had some negative thoughts of it. I thought it was quite good actually, but probably not for exactly what we're doing here. But everything has its pros and cons. And it's a system that council use we use rather not everywhere. So across all our services, and I found it quite useful. But I'll take your points. It does have its pros and cons.
I don't think I mean certainly we use SharePoint as well. I think most people do. It's a critical part of anybody's IT infrastructure. It's just what it's if, for example, you're using it to hold health and safety files and O&M information, one of the big challenges is permissions, because you might put something in thinking that so other people can see it, but you can't because of all of the restrictions that are quite correctly there for that particular purpose.
So one of the other downsides of SharePoint is the file path character limit, which which everyone has no doubt come across, because if you have a folder structure and then a subfolder structure underneath that and a subfolder structure underneath that, and then you've got a document which is and this happens particularly with things like plans, where they have a specific format for the file name of a plan, which is already 20 characters long. And by the time you've stuck that plan in a subfolder of a subfolder of a subfolder of a folder, you've breached the 256 character limit, and then you can't access it. And you can't even often store documents in SharePoint if it's going to breach that limit. So it's a major shortcoming of using SharePoint.
And you don't know it's happened.
No.
So you can import things in and not actually realise that it's happened.
Yeah.
We've come across that.
Yeah.
So Sen, I don't think anybody's denigrating SharePoint. It's just it's what it's designed to do, as it were.
No, that's a good point. Actually, that's why I've seen that as well. You've folders within folders. They suddenly realise, hang on, what's happened here, and exactly the reason why.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that it's like all big organisations. We Tower Hamlets have got. We're implementing across the board active plan across all the properties, and so therefore you've got some of the technology that I've just been showing you there available to use, but everybody's been concentrating at the moment on getting all the floor plans done and 360 photos. So do you know Marzina?
Yes, I do. I think I've actually just recently moved over to the same kind of directorate as Margena. It's Margena, so asset management colleagues. So I do know her, and I've heard of Active Plan from her in the last couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah, so it would be interesting to just see what your needs are to see how that fits in. but I don't want to hijack this for that purpose. Okay, I think Bex, Dave, what do you think? Do you think we've probably reached the limit of what we can do today?
Yeah, I would have thought so, to be honest with you. I mean, one of the things that we were looking to do in this meeting with a wider audience is similar to what Sam was saying, is just share experiences of development handover with the view that some people might be doing something, smarter than other people that other people hadn't thought of. And we've sort of done that within our limited, a group of people in our limited experience. If there had been a wider audience, I think we probably would have got some different viewpoints. I think probably the same old pain points right across the board. I don't think anyone's come up with a magic bullet for this yet. But it would be interesting to see, what other people have done that perhaps you think, oh, actually, that's an idea. Yeah. So I think we've sort of come to a natural conclusion. And Bex, you're nodding your head.
Yeah,
I can only see you small at the moment because George is still sharing his screen, but
oh, sorry,
nodding your head.
Sorry.
He always has to dominate, doesn't he? Have you noticed
I
that?
know. Yeah. Luckily, his relative Connor isn't like that, so.
Yeah.
So have you got any standard methods or templates or anything like that you're using for
No,
checking?
we don't. We have ERs, and then we set out something, but the principal contractors don't usually stick to that. As I said, we've been fortunate that we worked with some of the bigger ones up week, so the information does come over in a I won't say half decent, in a decent format that we're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But we've not been able to get them to work to one way of doing things.
Cool. Okay. Well, I've got loads to do, so I think probably unless anybody else has got a good reason to carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to go and look at my sunglass collection and work out which shorts I'm going to wear and things like that. All the important
stuff.
things. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys.
Yeah,
Cheers, guys.
See you
George,
later,
can you
guys.
hold 1 minute?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. See you later, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.